Yo guys, what is up? Jerome here, and today we're talking everything Season of Discovery items. Now there is so much to get into with the new BFD Raid. It's got 7 bosses, a ton of blues and epics to choose from as well. I want to go through not only all the blues that we already know about, but I also want to talk about loot priority. Who should get which items first? And I also want to cover, of course, the new epics. Exactly what these epics are, how good are they, and then who should be crafting them first. There's so much to get into in this video, so let's get right to it. Warning, before you go any further, this is spoiler territory. This is the most comprehensive information on items that I've found, and it will take away some of the surprise from doing the raid for the first time. So just a quick reminder, this is the gear that'll be primarily dropping from the first 3 bosses. That would be Baron, Gamura, and Lady Cereves. However, there have been a few items that have leaked out from later bosses, which we'll also be covering. Let's start with all the new weapons. First up, we have the Fathom Blade, which is like a much faster smites hammer with a lower top end. Blizzard has also said Baron Aquanus is tuned to be very easy, the easiest boss in the raid. Having an easy-to-get weapon like Fathom Blade from the raid will get warriors online a lot faster to start slicing in PvP. Then we have the Guardian's Trident, which is a hunter weapon from Lady Cereves. It's a nice slow weapon with a huge top end, which will be perfect for PvP. Keeping on hunters, we also have the Naga Heartrender. This is the true Biss Hunter bow. It's like Venom Strike, but about 30% better and with no proc effect. Hunters were already overpowered at level 25, so having an even better bow makes them a real problem in raiding and PvP. The Chipped Bite of Serikis is a very strong 1.3 speed dagger. It's very similar to the Meteor Shard, and it's great for dual wielding with something like a Cruel Barb. Then we have the Strength of Purpose, which is a one-handed mace. For paladins, I would way rather have the two-handed Varigan's Fist. But for everyone else, this is a top 3 Biss one-hander. It's also way less effort to get compared to doing the entire Test of Faith questline for the Windstorm Hammer. There's also a shield drop, which is the Shell Plate Barrier. Compared to my pre-Biss choice of the Commander's Crest from SFK, this does have 7 more strength. It'll be great for Devastate Blasting for raiding and farming, or maybe just Prot Warrior PvP, because I'm pretty sure that's back and I'm ready for it. Then for the caster offhand, we have the Cracked Water Globe. I'd compare this to the Witch's Finger from the Horde Ashenvale quest. It's not your true Biss, but it is a solid upgrade mid-raid. Moving into the Trinkets, we have 3 new Trinkets, and they don't seem to come from the first 3 bosses. Considering our previous best options were the Minor Recombobulator and the Rune of Perfection or a PvP Trinket, this is a welcome change. Avenger's Void Pearl will be Biss for your physical damage dealers. Then the Invoker's Void Pearl with 8 spell damage for your casters. Running an Acolyte's Void Pearl will be huge for my priest as well when I'm healing. As for new neck pieces, these are very minor upgrades, but they're still pretty good. The Droplet Choker is sort of a downgrade for casters over getting an Intellect Roll Spectral Necklace, though the High Tide Choker is a 4 agi 1 strength upgrade over the 6 strength green. We also have 2 Warlock tank pieces, and these are designed specifically to make Warlocks tankier in raids. The Clamweave Tunic is a perfect Warlock tank piece. It's like the Robes of Arugel, but souped up nearly 3 times more armor and stamina for your Metamorphosis rune. Then Gamura will drop Gamura's Cinch. This is a really good 8 stamina, 8 intellect piece for Warlocks. However, the Belt of Arugel is higher int and better for non-Warlock tanks, or just a green spell damage option. As for the shoulders, there are 3 new shoulders, and they're all close to Biss. The Sub-Zero Pauldrons are for Frost Mages, but they have less Frost damage than BOE options. The shoulder guards and the shoulder pads are small upgrades over the pre-Biss Vendor Elite shoulders I plan to run. As for cloaks, we get a caster cloak that's arguably not even better than any of the green spell power options. The Shimmering Thresher Cape, meanwhile, is a situational tank swap since it has fire and shadow resistance, but no stamina. As for the legs, we have some very strong warrior legs from Lady Cereves with stats comparable to the Trip Runner Dungarees. Those are unfortunately still significantly better, so you'll still have to go get them. We also get 2 new bracers, and as a caster I'd rather have a spell power green bracer instead of the bindings of Serikis. Then the Pugilist bracers are still Biss for warriors compared to the Hydraxian bangles, but it is close enough to skip them. Alright, so we know all the drops so far, but now it's time for speculation. We definitely have to consider the remaining loot from the last 4 bosses. The theme so far has been that items are filling in the gaps that exist in the level 25 gearing process. Warlock tanks, for example, have very few high armor options to choose from, so they're adding pieces like the Clamweave Tunic. Based on developer comments, it is very likely we'll see several more Warlock tank pieces in the raid with more armor and stamina. One notable missing type of gear so far is any sort of strong spellcaster weapon. It's all but guaranteed there will be some very nice spell damage weapons from the final bosses like Akumai. I am very curious what you guys think they'll add for the rest of the bosses. Maybe we'll get even more hit rating items to make the bosses easier. Or maybe some kind of headgear because we haven't seen a single piece yet. So now it's time to address the epic elephant in the room, which is the epic items. Currently we know of 4 new recipes to craft epic gear. Each of these pieces requires blacksmithing, tailoring, or leatherworking. It's clear Blizzard is trying to move us away from all going mining and engineering like we always do. You can only run one of these epics on your character at any given time, so it's very similar to jewel crafting epic gems in Wrath of the Lich King. For warrior tanks, the shifting silver breastplate is a must-have, requiring 175 blacksmithing to make. It has essentially the same stats as the shining silver breastplate, but you get 1 hit rating and a new proc effect. Whenever enemies attack you, they have a 25% chance to receive a curse to make them take 2 more damage from all sources. Then physical DPS will be getting 160 leatherworking for the Void Touch leather gloves. These give 1 hit and a 10% increased attack speed proc for 10 seconds every 10 minutes. I did do the math, and these are definitely better for DPS warriors than the plate chest epic. As a caster, you'd probably expect a nice cloth glove option, however so far it's just a leather glove for your boomkins and your shamans. Combining the toughened leather gloves with the Shard of the Void will give you 10% more spell damage every 10 minutes with 1 spell hit. The real caster draw though is the extra planar spider silk boots. 150 tailoring is required and a pair of spider silk boots and a Shard of the Void. That'll give you a 30% damage reduction CD for 10 seconds every 10 minutes. Other casters though will still want it for the 7 spell damage and the 1 spell hit. As for actually getting the crafted epics, bear with me as we do some theory crafting. One community theory so far is that there's a mysterious box that will drop or appear during the raid. We'll have to destroy that box, and inside of the box will be a Shard of the Void. From this point, crafting the new epic gear will be as simple as making a new piece of gear like with a Primordial Serenite. Except we definitely don't have a handy Ashen Verdict rep vendor to talk to. That's where the newly leaked elixir item in the BFD Raid likely comes into play. The theory goes that this elixir might be used to communicate with a new NPC. That NPC will help us with destroying the box, or at the very least learning new recipes. Another community theory is that the elixir is completely irrelevant for the raid and will just be used for new hardcore quests, so it's still up in the air. So we know all about the epic loot now, it's time to talk about loot prio strategy. With a 3-day lockout, it seems relatively likely we'll just be getting 1 or 2 Shards of the Void per raid. With the items we know so far, the first Shard of the Void should go to your Warlock tank. That'll give him a very important activatable tank CD. If you have a physical tank like a warrior though, I would prioritize him the tank chest epic first. That's because hit rating is a key for threat, and I don't want to wipe the threat in BFD every 10 minutes. Then you can prioritize gearing out your casters and your physical DPS with boots and leather gloves. That'll give them some hit rating and even more damage. As for the rest of the gear, the same idea applies. Anything high stamina or high resistances goes straight to the tank. If our tank has a terrible weapon though, he's also going to be getting the first weapon drop as well. Then for the rest of the blues, everything will go to the DPS first to maximize raid damage. The priority for each piece will be very dynamic depending on what pieces everyone already has. Even your faction matters. For example, Strength of Purpose is great, but Horde can get a much better Windstorm Hammer instead. I do admit that my own theory for gearing is very different than everyone else's. I'd love to hear from you in the comments on who's going to be getting the first epics in your group. Alright, so I know we just went through a lot of theory crafting and speculation, and a lot of this might change in the next 2 weeks. But this is part of the fun and the excitement of getting to do something new for the first time in years as a Classic fan. We now have a much better idea of the loot coming in the new raid, so we can prepare and dominate in the new mode. As more info becomes available, this will be the best hub for Season of Discovery updates and insights. So I definitely invite you to subscribe to be informed as more info becomes available. And of course, check out my comprehensive Warlock guide to master all the runes and the best talent builds next.